And we are back. Great to have you here, as always, my friends. Rush Limbaugh, America's real anchorman. Executing assigned host duties flawlessly with zero mistakes, which enables me to meet and surpass all audience expectations on a daily basis. The telephone number, if you want to be on the program, is 800-282-2882, and the email address, lrushmo@eibnet.com. There really are a lot of other things. I intended to have gotten to them long before now, but the program's kind of been hijacked here today by Ted Cruz signing up for, either federal insurance or Obamacare, whichever you want to call it. Even some dispute about that. Which we'll explain here as the program continues to unfold before your very eyes and ears. Now, all of this visit back into history, the point is, because I had some emails, Rush, what does any of this have to do with Cruz signing up? It's a good question. It's kind of dovetailed together. It's one thing has led to another, and so it served my purpose to remind you of some of the blatant hypocrisy that's existed in this bill from the get-go. The Democrat Party gave us this monstrosity, and at every juncture of implementation, they asked to be exempted from it. The very people that told us this is going to end discrimination, it's going to end all of the pre-existing condition people being denied, it's going to make sure that women get all the birth control, whatever this bill was to you. It was portrayed as a panacea. It was utopia in the making. It was utopia in the waiting. And yet at every stage, Obama was granting waivers here, waivers there to every potential Democrat donor, potential Democrat voters. Waivers here. There have been thousands of waivers granted. People exempted from this bill from the get-go. All of them friends of the Democrat Party. Ted Cruz hasn't done anything. Ted Cruz hasn't asked to be exempted. He hasn't asked for special treatment. He hasn't done anything other than point out the bill is a disaster. So today he signs up for it because his wife leaves Goldman Sachs. The family is without health care. They had chosen to insure themselves through her job. She's taken an unpaid leave, so now his only choice is to sign up through his employer, which is the federal government. He's mandated, matter of law. He did it. This has upset some people. They don't yet know why. They're not quite sure why, but it doesn't sit well. I mean, on the one hand, here's a guy that's done nothing but claim he's going to get rid of it the first chance he gets. And then when he signs up, doesn't appear to have any problem with it. So people are conflicted. So we're trying to walk through this and explain why various things are happening. The reason we're taking these trips down memory lane is to remind you of all the hypocrisy that's existed. And this business of Harry Reid, congressional staffers, and members of the House and Senate complaining when they were originally exempt. When this bill was first written, they were exempt, which is typical. Washington writes a monstrosity of a law and exempts themselves from it. And they did it in the case of Obamacare. But Charles Grassley put the kibosh on it at some stage and forced the Democrats to subject themselves to it because they had to do everything they could to get this thing passed and signed into law. There were no Republican votes supporting it, if you recall. So they had to do things. We could spend probably a week recounting all of them, and I don't intend to. But staffers were the focal point because they make less than congressmen, and the newfound expenses being mandated upon them, they couldn't afford. They publicly whined and moaned. That to me alone was offensive. They're the damned architects of this. And they're publicly complaining about how they can't afford it. They make $125,000, anywhere from $90,000 to $125,000, and they can't afford it. And yet they have forced this on people that don't make anywhere near what they make. And they didn't cry a single tear for the people who can't afford this. And yet there they were belly aching and whining and moaning over the fact they couldn't afford it. So Obama came in and subsidize them up to 75%. Special preferential treatment for preferred citizens, in this case, Democrats and members of Congress, both parties, actually. Now, the latest demand for a waiver comes from a group of Democrat senators that are up for re-election in 2016. And they are begging Obama to delay a key portion of Obamacare because the results could be harmful and disruptive. They have written a letter. The Daily Caller website got hold of the letter. These Democrats are in the Senate, and they beg Sylvia Matthews Burwell, the Health and Human Services Secretary, to delay an Obamacare rule change. The rule change puts companies with 51 to 100 employees in the small group market. The small group market is the more expensive market. You have smaller groups, therefore a smaller group doesn't get as big a discount. The rule change would put certain companies, 51 to 100 employees, in the small group market, and they want to be in the large group market. The large group market has cheaper costs because there are more people in the group. It's all about volume discounts and so forth. The rule change, which will result in higher premiums for many companies, goes into effect next year, at election year. And these Democrats are upset because companies run by people that donate to them are going to experience vastly new healthcare costs unless they are exempted. And that's what the letter is asking the regime to do. Don't put them in the small group market. Put them in the larger group market where their premiums and costs are going to be less. The Democrats that signed the letter are all up for re-election in 2016. Claire McCaskill, Heidi Heitkamp, Chris Coons, Joe Manchin, Joe Donnelly, John Tester, and Angus King. Now, the point of this is it's just another example of the people who gave us this albatross asking to be exempted from it because they will be harmed by it. So all of these elites who wrote this damn thing are taking advantage of their power to exempt themselves or to request exemptions and get waivers. You and I can't. My point in bringing this up is no matter what you think of Cruz signing up for Obamacare, he's not out there bellyaching, whining and moaning and demanding this or that, asking for an exemption, asking for a waiver because of how much it costs. He's just manning up and obeying the law. Pure and simple. But he is going to have to explain this, I think, to a lot of people. Because there are a lot of his supporters that don't understand it. And they're concocting their own theories to explain his behavior here in order to mollify themselves. Because their instinct is to be alarmed by it. Which I understand. Again, in Senator Cruz, you have a guy who seemingly every day has criticized Obamacare in great detail. He's criticized it specifically. He's criticized it generically. He's criticized it ideologically. Every which way he can criticize it, he has. He's also promised to repeal it. First chance he gets, every word of it, he's going to repeal it. And then one day we wake up and he signed up for it. And people are scratching their heads. They were shocked. It came out of the blue. And they're thinking, where's the protest? I mean, if it's that bad, why wouldn't he not sign up? So that what I've been explaining today are his options. And he doesn't have many. None of us do. But he can't go the not getting insurance route and pay the fine because they jump all over him as a responsible husband and father, or irresponsible, for leaving his family uninsured. And he can't just ignore it because that would then subject himself to out of cost in the same criticism. And COBRA is no deal financially and only lasts for 18 months. So that's just a summation of where we are on this. The AP headline, and boy, are they chortling in this whole story. Cruz eyes insurance via Obamacare, a law he vows to scrap.